Okay. Well, welcome all, and welcome to HPLive. I'm Shelley Malman. I'm the Director of Marketing and Outreach here at Heritage Pointe. And HPLive is a monthly opportunity for fans of Heritage Pointe to get together and virtually catch up with each other as we've been doing the last few minutes, and also see how Heritage Pointe and the residents have been doing during the pandemic. So I'd like to show you a quick video of how Heritage Pointe has been doing these past few months. And if you like what you're watching, you're more than welcome to help support Heritage Pointe by texting HP Give Now on your phone to 345-345. Thank you again for all your support. And here's a short video. Hold on, this is all new to me. Share. Here we go.
Welcome to Heritage Pointe Assisted Living and Memory Care, a one-of-a-kind, not-for-profit community founded over 30 years ago. Here, we provide the highest quality of care to seniors in Orange County, while inspiring independence and wellness through an extraordinary lifestyle, high-quality care, and rich traditions. During these unusual times, our award-winning staff's attention to sanitation and health has kept residents safe and sound, and able to enjoy life together rather than having to live alone during the crisis. As a Jewish community of seniors, our mission is focused solely around our residents and providing the life they deserve. Wherever you or a loved one may be in your journey, we offer an engaging lifestyle with full social calendars, delicious chef-prepared kosher meals, beautiful apartments, and life-enriching services. Discover it for yourself. To learn more about Heritage Pointe or to experience it for yourself in person or by virtual tour, contact Ginger at 949-276-6215. We look forward to sharing more about our beautiful community, engaging lifestyle, and dedicated care with you.
Okay. So now I'd like to introduce Beth Slavin, Director of Philanthropy at Heritage Pointe.
Thank you, Shelley. And once again, welcome to all of you for attending our second HPLive collaborative program today with Adam Greenfield, Artistic Director for Playwrights Horizons and Off-Broadway Theater in New York City. Greenfield joined Playwrights Horizons in 2007, first as Literary Manager and Director of New Play Development, and then as Associate Artistic Director. During his tenure so far, Adam created the theater's guest curator program, New Works Lab, resident company program, perspectives on playwriting, audience education initiatives, and the Soundstage Audio Fiction podcast, in addition to which he has shepherded over 80 productions. Prior to his tenure at Playwrights Horizons, he served as Associate Artistic Director at the Empty Space Theater in Seattle and Literary Manager at La Jolla Playhouse. Recent directing credits include Courtney Barron's Eat Your Heart Out, Madeline George's 0 Hour, Gregory S. Moss's La Brea, and Jordan Harrison's Marjorie Prime. He has also developed the new works with several nationally acclaimed theaters across the country. Adam received an undergraduate degree from the University of Michigan. Go Blue. Dr. Rob Greenfield is a cardiologist and lipidologist and founder of California Heart Associates, now in its 41st year. Rob attends on the faculty at UCI's Preventive Cardiology Clinic and lectures locally and regionally. He was a board member of Heritage Pointe and was a past president of Temple Bat Yam. He is now co-chair of their adult ed program.
Did you find it?
Associated with Orange Coast Memorial Medical Center, Rob held positions of chief of staff as well as director of non-invasive cardiology and chaired the very important bioethics committee. Their children, Rory, who is with us today, is happily married and lives in Portland, Oregon, where she is a supervisor at Metro, a leader in the field of environmental science. He joins us today, of course, with his son, Adam, the artistic director of the famous Playwrights Horizons, the home to so many American playwrights, and this year's Pulitzer-winning play that was in fact produced at Playwrights Horizons. Rob and his wife, Audrey, of 52 years, have always loved theater. So as they sat, the tree bears fruit. So if you have any questions, we're going to ask you to all use the chat box, and we'll try and get them, a few of them or as many as we can answered after the discussion. But in the meantime, without further ado, it is my pleasure and my honor to present Adam Greenfield and his father, Dr. Rob Greenfield, who will moderate this discussion. Thank you all. Sit back, enjoy, and relax.
Well, thank you, Beth. And thank you for everything you do for Heritage Pointe. I was fortunate to be on the board for a couple of years and saw how wonderful that organization is and how well they treat our seniors. So it's a delight to be here. And it's also a delight to actually interview my son, the artistic director of Playwrights Horizon. The famous and notorious Oscar Wilde once said, "I regard the theater as the greatest of all art forms. It is the most immediate way in which a human being can share with another the sense of what it means to be human." My wife, Audrey, and I are childhood sweethearts from Brooklyn, and going to see a Broadway show in Manhattan was a passion we shared and perpetuated when we had kids, Adam and his older sister, Rory. When Adam was 3 years old, we took the kids to their first Broadway play, A Chorus Line, a great Tony Award production. And we would frequently travel back to Brooklyn to visit family over the years. We'd always catch a show or two or three, because they were certainly a lot cheaper back then, and always took the kids. People around us were amazed at how well this little boy sat through a long show. No, he wasn't fidgety, he was transfixed. One day when he was maybe 5 years old, we found him marching about the family room with my wife's robe, an old hat, and a broomstick, acting out some part, and his older sister Rory was there offering constructive criticism. Audrey and I looked at each other wondering if we've overdone this theater thing. But we soon realized that this was going to be his future. You know, it's said that a man never stands as tall when he kneels to help a child. And so we did. His road, however, was extremely circuitous. And although we knew we'd be there for him, so much of his journey was planned and navigated by himself. As parents, we held the net should he fall, but he never did. So I've known this gentleman now for over 4 decades. And coming to you from New York, let me introduce my son, Adam Greenfield. Welcome back home, and thank you for taking the time to enlighten us about what you do.
Hi, everyone.
Now, let me start by asking you a question. Tell us how old you were when you first performed in your first play, and who you were, and what was the character?
Well, first, let me say thanks so much for having me. It was I was so delighted to be asked to speak to you all today, and also thanks to my dad, who, as he just mentioned, like I think my parents bringing me to see plays when I was a kid really obviously shaped me and shaped my life in a lot of ways, and I'm just always grateful for that. But it really began actually. Although I had been, I loved being in the audience for plays as a kid. The first play that I was in was at Harbor View Elementary School in Corona del Mar, and my best friend was Teddy Duncan, and Teddy's mom, Jan, wanted Teddy to be in the school play, and so she signed Teddy up. And because she didn't want Teddy to be in the play alone, she went ahead and signed me up too, and without asking. So suddenly I was signed up to be in the school play, and that play was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and I was cast as Charlie Brown, and I have to say I was very good. As memory serves, I really rocked the boards on that one with that role. No, no, that was like a first. That was a first for me, and I think maybe because I had seen plays up to that point, that was in third grade, and I think somehow or another I kind of just felt like at home on the stage, and I felt like I kind of knew what to do or something, like because I had seen so much work, and it was a really it was a great experience for me. I felt like I liked the friendships, and I liked that feeling of just there was like a kind of I was never really much of like a team sports kid. I was always kind of like the one sitting on the bench, but but in this case, I felt like I was part of a team and was like a member of a team, and it was a great experience. I remember my grandma, my dad's mom, sitting with me and helping me learn lines for Charlie Brown, and that was like a really it's a very 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 important memory for me.
Tell us about your first professional experience and how did that affect you?
My first professional experience was so once I got kind of like hooked on theater and I got really into it. I loved it. I loved doing it. It was what I wanted to do. And fortunately I had South Coast Rep in kind of in my proverbial backyard. And I went through the entirety of the Young Conservatory program at South Coast Rep. Starting from like maybe I think fourth or fifth grade, I believe I started taking classes there, and I worked all the way up through my early teenage years at South Coast Rep, and I was like a South Coast Rep fan. I saw everything I could, as much as I could there, and actually they invited me to come audition for their production of Christmas Carol. I was cast as Ebenezer as a young boy. So I was the Ebenezer when he was abandoned by his family and like stuck in the schoolyard by himself. And so I really, once again, I was very good in that play. It was a really amazing experience because I got to be backstage in a professional production. I was the most Jewish Ebenezer as a young boy that maybe ever saw the stage at South Coast Rep, but I was in the dressing room with all these professional actors, and I just got to see how they all relate to each other, and I thought they were so funny. They were like so fun with each other, and like they were just there was like a lot of just kind of like fun actors like bantering with each other backstage, and the backstage life of that play again just was really like just felt like home for me. And that was also another experience that made me want to sort of spend my life doing that.
So moving on, most students start one high school and they graduate from the same high school. But you went to 3 different high schools and searched for something. Can you explain what you were looking for? I know that was not an easy thing to do.
Well, I mean, at first I went to Corona Del Mar High School. That was actually junior high. And there wasn't really a theater program. I think that there's a theater program there now. But at the time there wasn't really a theater program. I was, and I was there for 7th and 8th grade. And then I felt like I wanted to be go to a high school where I could be in some school plays. And so I transferred out to Newport Harbor High School in Newport Beach. And I was there for my freshman and sophomore years. But at the same time, in the summers, I was going to a theater summer camp up in Idlewild, California, which was called now it's called the Idlewild Arts Academy, but at the time it was called the Idlewild School of Music and the Arts. And I ultimately, they also had a year-round academy at the Idlewild School of Music and the Arts. And they had just started maybe about 5 years before before I went to summer camp there. And they were looking, because a lot of theater departments have a hard time getting teenage males in the program. I think in at the high school, it was mostly like young women who were interested in being part of the theater department. And so they also called and they offered a scholarship for me to come up and be one of the 4 males in the theater program there. And so I transferred from Newport Harbor up to go to this boarding school up in Idlewild. And I think that the reason, like, you know, the leaving Corinne Belmar High School, going to Newport Harbor High School, leaving Newport Harbor High School and going up to Idlewild, I think it was just that I think I just knew what I wanted to do in my life. I think I just somehow knew that from a really early age, I was I knew that I wanted to have a life in theater, and that I was serious about it. Sometimes maybe too serious about it, and I wanted training. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to go through a conservatory program. So that was what I was in pursuit of. And up in Idlewild, it was a conservatory style program for teenagers, and it was a really intense experience. And I do feel like I think in a lot of ways it kind of taught me a professionalism at a really early age.
Okay. Well, certainly your mother and I went through trials and tribulations. As you may know, Idlewild are the mountains that overlook Palm Springs, and they're snow-capped, and they're over 6,000 feet high, and that's exactly where the school was. And we would go up by car on these little windy snake roads that Audrey hated. I found out if we blindfolded her, we'd get up there quicker. But anyway, we realized at that point, boy, you better become an actor because this is crazy. But it was a wonderful school and we loved going up there. But let me ask you, would you recommend that school for someone that is here in Orange County or elsewhere? I think, did you mention that the student body was pretty diverse?
Oh, I didn't mention that. No, it was an amazing experience. I mean, it was a very strange place to go to spend 2 years of my teenage life. I will say, like, I mean, at the time when I first joined, it wasn't accredited yet. Like it was like just beginning to form as a school. And then while I was there, we had the accrediting committee show up, and they would ask all these questions and sat in our classes, and then they accredited us, and so we became an actual school. And also it was a school that was really built around its classical music program, and the orchestra was phenomenal. And the students came from all over the world. I think when I was there, it was maybe 150 students total, and the orchestra I think was maybe 40 of those students, and they came from mostly Korea, China, Russia. There was a significant number of Bulgarian musicians that were there at the time, and so a large, and also the dance program was also very international as well, and it was also a very well respected program. And I would say of the 150 students that were there, probably 75 of them, like probably half of them, didn't really speak English. So it was a very strange place to be, but it was also very small. It was a small student body. My graduating class was 35 students, compared to Newport Harbor High School, which was maybe, probably 400 students in my class. So it was a very strange experience, and you got to know the students, so your fellow students, like, all too well. And of course, you're all 16, 17 years old. So everyone was insane. So it was a very, very intense period of time. And not only was everybody insane because they were teenagers, they were insane because they were like teenage budding artists. So it was kind of like the energy of like the movie Fame, but like stuck in a tiny campus on the top of a mountain. So if you can imagine, it was a very people were very, it was a very crazy environment. So I mean, I think the school has gotten a lot bigger now. I think that it's probably gotten a lot more just kind of like professional and legitimate. That I think it's probably a bit different from when I was there, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, I would say it was I loved the training. I loved the people that I met there. I could develop some really long friendships with people who I was in school with. But the part that was hard, I think, was being at the top of the mountain, this was before the internet, like I felt really cut off from the world. So I didn't, yeah, I remember like there was like the LA fires or something like that. I can't remember. There was a bunch of events that happened, like national news stories that I'm still a little bit like kind of like fuzzy on, because it was very we were very secluded in a little bubble up there.
So, so you graduate high school and you want to be an actor, and now you got to go to college. I mean, so where do you go, and how does that happen? I mean,
Well,
you
actually,
want to apply to a program that's going to support your profession.
Well, actually, I don't think I really ever really wanted to be an actor. I think that I think acting is just like what you have access to. When you're a kid, when you're in high school, no one's going to let you direct a play. No one's going to let you produce a play or like design lights for a play or something, or choose the play. All you get to do is audition for the school play. And so I basically just took whatever I had access to. And so I followed acting for a while. But at a certain point, like I knew that that wasn't really what I wanted to do. What I actually found, I mean, to go back to South Coast Rep again, South Coast Rep was really like a home for me. And it felt to me like not just a home because it was a place where I went to have fun. It actually was a place where I felt like I was seeing all these incredible plays. South Coast Rep was a profoundly important theater, and they were producing all kinds of really just innovative, adventurous, risky new plays. And so I was being introduced to major new writers like Craig Lucas and Ethel Fugard and Carol Churchill and Stephen Sondheim, at the same time that I was also being introduced to Shakespeare and Shaw, and Chekhov. I was seeing all these things at once at South Coast Rep, and it felt to me like a place where I was like learning how to be a person. Like I was like these characters that I was meeting on stage kind of were giving me like life lessons that were really important to me, that really kind of helped me sort of make my own life decisions. And so I think that at a certain point, what I wanted to do was not just be a cog in the machine. I kind of wanted to which is what not to call actors cogs in the machine, but because they're very important. But an actor isn't in control of the larger mechanism of what a theater is. And I kind of wanted to be the one who was making that thing that the theater was giving me. I wanted to make that for other people. And I felt like as I was leaving boarding school and thinking about going to college, I was thinking about like, okay, well, what I really want to do is kind of focus on the next step up, which is for me, like being a director of plays as opposed to an actor in plays. And so I felt a little bit torn. Like, how do you get to be a director? What's the best training? Do you study English and literature and history, or do you study acting? So I first I chose, well, I'm going to study liberal arts. So I went to Reed College in Portland, Oregon. And then the same experience that I had when I was in high school, I had when I was at Reed College. And Reed was an incredible school. I loved the school, and the academics were fantastic. But I decided that ultimately I wanted to, again, have a more acute, sharper training in a conservatory style environment. So I transferred out of Reed to go to University of Michigan, go Blue, and where I was able to pursue a conservatory style acting training program but also have a really strong liberal arts background as well. And Michigan was really that for me. It really kind of gave me like a really balanced education, like academically, but it also gave me access to studying all the techniques that you need to learn as an actor in order to be a good director. So that was kind of what I did. So I auditioned. I had auditioned for a bunch of colleges. I got into a couple of different conservatory programs. I went to Reed, and then to be honest, I just chose the school that had the best reputation. So I went to University of Michigan. Again, go Blue. Yeah.
So it just brings to mind, but about you said the people that influenced you and you came into contact with, and we hadn't realized that I actually had made friends with Stephen Sondheim. And we were in Brooklyn at Aunt Janice's house, and the phone rang, and I was the only one available to answer it. And someone gets on the phone and says, "Hi, is Adam there? This is Stephen." I figured, gee, how his friends are tracking him all the way from California to New York. And I said, Adam, it's Steven. It was Steven Sondheim, inviting him to his Manhattan apartment for the day. And so we knew in the morning we had to go and buy Adam a nice shirt and everything else to meet with Steven. And you were with Steven Sondheim all day. The most amazing playwright and lyricist. And did that influence you any?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I grew, I went to see the musical Into the Woods when I was in, I think I was maybe 7th or 8th grade, and we were staying in a hotel in New York, and I remember, going. I mean, Into the Woods was everything to me when I saw it at that age. It was so, it surprised me. It blew my mind. And I went back, and back when there used to be a thing called the white pages. I looked through the white pages, and I was like, I wonder if that guy who wrote that play, if he's in the white pages, and he was, and it had his address there and everything. And so I wrote him a letter, on the hotel stationery, and it said like, "Dear Mr. Sondheim, I just saw your musical, and I'm 13 years old, and it changed my life, and you're amazing." And then then a couple of weeks later, we were back in California, and he wrote back, saying, "Thanks so much for your letter. I've never received fan mail from somebody that young, and your friends must think you're crazy." And I was like, "Yes, you understand me." So then he said, "Next time you're in New York, please let me know. I'd love to, I'm happy to meet you, and so I spent the day with Stephen Sondheim. He was very nice. He gave me some advice, some of which I don't remember. He definitely told me that I should start taking piano lessons while my fingers were still young, and I didn't take him up on that. But what it did ultimately was, I think for me, felt like he took me seriously, and I felt like he took the time out to talk to me, to give me advice, to meet me, and I think it kind of made me feel like I had a place at the table, there was a place for me in the theater world. And of course, at the time, Stephen Sondheim did a lot of his work was done and was developed and produced at Playwrights Horizons, where I ultimately found a job. And to me, I think in some ways, I think I began to envision moving to New York and working at a theater like Playwrights Horizons, partly from that experience, I think.
Okay. So I want to move on to a different topic, if I can, something more contemporary. And a lot of people viewing today love theater, and I think many of us definitely wish theaters could be open now, and we can get out of the house and see some culture, theaters, concerts, movies, whatever. So people who go to Broadway, especially out-of-towners, they gravitate to big Broadway musicals. But you, however, relish serious theater, repertory, drama. What advice would you give an out-of-towner in selecting plays when that time comes to be again, God willing?
You mean in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say come to only see plays at Playwrights Horizons, of course. It's the only good theater in town. No, I would say in my mind, I think Broadway is there's certainly there's always going to be great shows on Broadway, and certainly I enjoy going to see shows on Broadway when I can afford to. In my mind, there are terrific plays off Broadway, and that's kind of where I have that's where I've always aspired to be. To me, the difference is that Broadway is, I don't know, it's funny. I was actually having this conversation at work the other day where we were talking about the way people perceive Broadway versus off Broadway. And I think that there's this perception that I think is false, that there's Broadway and then there's off Broadway, which is kind of like the minor leagues, that it's like if things that are not good enough to get to Broadway run off Broadway. But actually that's not really how it works in my mind. In my mind, it's two completely different animals. Broadway is a commercial endeavor. Broadway, I think of as like its main purpose is to create product and sell that product to consumers. So Broadway producers will think of a show that's going to sell tickets, and and its ability to sell tickets is the driving force. So they'll look for celebrities, they'll look for pieces that have like a clear marketing hook. like it's like based on a movie, and so the movie has like is a movie that's a recognizable movie name, so like people will go see the stage version of that, or they'll say like Jersey Boys, which is like a jukebox musical that's filled with songs that you already know. So in some ways, I think of Broadway kind of a little bit closer to like what you would go see when you're going to Las Vegas and you want to basically be entertained, and you want to have like a kind of like a a bit more of a known quantity. Whereas I think off Broadway is very different. It's driven by something different. It's a nonprofit. They're nonprofit theaters. They are in the tax exempt sector, and the reason that they're in the tax exempt sector is because they're there to serve the public. They're there to try to help people, to make the world better, to try to help the community in which they're thriving or living or trying to thrive. And that's why they're tax exempt. If you looked at the organizations that are eligible for 501c3 status, which includes performing arts organizations, they're charities, they're social service programs, and that's what nonprofit theater is, and that's what off Broadway is. So what you're going to see if you go to off Broadway are plays that are trying to like make your life better, that are going to enrich you or give you that make your life give you a deeper experience or ask you important questions for you to grapple with, which is what I wanted. It's what I felt that's what I got from theater when I was a kid. And that's where I feel like that's the kind of theater that I'm interested in making. I could probably make a lot more money if I was working in a more commercially driven theater, but quite honestly, I just don't think that I don't think I would be fed by it. I think I would be, what I love the most is this feeling of an audience who feel like they've had a revelation when they see a play.
Okay.
They've had a new thought, a new epiphany about something.
Okay. Well, I only have two questions left, and we do want to leave time for anyone who has questions. Just no medical advice today, please, but questions directed to Adam mainly. So now there's a hardball question. We're still in a pandemic. It's in full swing. All of us hope that a vaccine will be proven safe and effective and available, and to facilitate some immunity to the virus. So as an artistic director of Playwrights Horizon right now, what keeps you up at night? And how do you guide the theater through this morass? For example, if we do get back to normal, and most likely it'll be a new normal, how do you see the future of theater? How are you going to fill seats? And does anything need to change?
I mean, yes, things need to change. But I guess what I think about with this moment, I mean, like a lot keeps me up at night right now. I mean, I took this job. I got the title of artistic director. I was hired about a year ago, but my title didn't change until July 2nd of this. It was in the middle of this summer that I moved into this new job, and I will say it was trial by fire. It was immediately running an organization where the very thing that defines theater, which is audiences gathering in a room together, is the thing that you can't do. So, I think it's been about a lot of work with an amazing staff at this organization. We have an incredible staff, trying to figure out how to continue the work of the theater and make good on our mission and our purpose to bring new playwriting to audiences. So we've been looking for all kinds of new and innovative and creative ways. We've done audio fiction. We've done we just launched a new literary magazine called The Almanac. We are going to be televising some plays that we're going to be filming on our stage. We are starting a new program to use. It sounds silly, but I think it's going to be amazing, where we can do performances in the window of our building on 42nd Street in New York City, and audiences, when the weather gets warmer, can stand outside the building and watch a performance happen inside the windows. And so that's why you can kind of stay socially distant and not enter the building. So it's been a lot of trying to, it's like what Playwrights Horizons is a machine that's built to make plays happen. And we're not a machine that's built to make these other kinds of programs. So the thing that keeps me up at night right now is, how do I take a machine that's made to build plays try to like adjust it, like reverse engineer it to make a different kind of experience. So it's almost kind of like a wartime, like in wartime, a factory that's built to make cars suddenly having to make like, parachutes or something. It's like that's a little bit what it feels like. But I mean, what this has been like, what's been kind of amazing is, a friend of mine who knows the Old Testament better than me was telling me about a passage in Leviticus where the 50th year of every 50 years you have a year of Jubilee. Right. And in a Jubilee year, you do not like plow your field. You basically let the land rest. You let it restore itself. You don't plant. You don't sow or reap. And you just basically spend the time taking care of your family and kind of reorienting yourself. And this year happens to be the 50th anniversary of Playwrights Horizons. This is the 50th year for Playwrights Horizons, and it's hard for me not to think of it as the year of Jubilee, a chance to stop and reflect and reorient and say, okay, let's maybe say that this is a time for us to really go back and examine, like, what is the essence of what we do? What's the basis of our work? And how can we become better at what we do because we were forced to stop our work? How can we use as an opportunity to examine our work and do it better in the future? So to me, one of the big things that we have to do when we come back, when we produce again, is really ask the question. As I mentioned, we're a nonprofit theater and we're meant to serve the community. I think we have to ask the question, who are we serving? I think that the theater audience has been pretty siloed over time. It's become pretty siloed over time. Theater tickets have gotten really expensive. And I think what it does is it creates barriers of access to our work where a large part of the New York City community simply can't afford to see plays because ticket prices are so high. So I think we need to really find a way to lower those barriers of access so that our theater can be really truly for the city, that we can really make sure that like we are theater for everybody and not just for a select group of subscribers who are already in the habit of coming to our work, but really try to reach more people so that we can really enrich the life of the full city and not just a part of the city. So that's kind of my thought about that in brief.
It sounds, at least to me, that off-Broadway detects and feels it has a responsibility to speak to society and to speak to people as our society is changing and things are evolving. And yet, if we deny them access, it kind of defeats the purpose. So your point's very well taken. Yeah. But I want to speak about.
I should mention too that, while I say like Broadway is so different from off-Broadway, it is also true that a lot of plays that are successes off-Broadway then transfer and move to Broadway.
That's true.
And then they find a commercial production. And many of the plays at Playwrights Horizons have found that success as well. Playwrights Horizons premiered Driving Miss Daisy, Sunday in the Park with George, the musical Grey Gardens, the play Clyburn Park, which won a Pulitzer as well. The Heidi Chronicles began at Playwrights Horizons. So there's a lot of plays that, Rent began at an off-Broadway theater. Hamilton began in an off-Broadway theater. These, so it's not the difference is that when the off-Broadway theater produces it for the first time, it's not driven by making money. It's driven by trying to bring art to audiences.
Okay, this is my last question. I want to stick with young people. So what does Playwrights Horizon do for young people? Not only to encourage them to see the play, but maybe have a desire to make theater arts a career for them, those who really want that. What resources are available for young people and budding playwrights?
We have a school. We have a Playwrights Horizons Theater School. It's actually affiliated through NYU, and it is it's a graduate. No, it's not. It's an undergraduate theater training program that's affiliated through NYU, and we have 200 students per year. And it's produced some terrific artists over years, and it's been going for quite a long time. And then, so that's a way of training artists. We also have we're also really a theater that's about giving voice to young artists. So if you look at a lot of the writers whose work you see on our stage, they're receiving their first professional production or their first off-Broadway production at Playwrights Horizons. So we really spend a lot of time not just trying to produce writers who are already established, but trying to focus on writers who you've never heard of, who then become established. So that's one thing. So it's a lot of the work we produce is really focused on young writers, young actors, and we also build careers for young directors. We have a fellowship program that trains young theater professionals, stage managers, directors, literary managers, casting directors, grant writers, marketing types. So we have that program, but then also for audiences, we have if you're under 30, you can get a $10 ticket for any show we do.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, Adam, you may have outgrown my lap, but never my heart. Thank you so much for doing this for us. Appreciate it. Let's turn our program back to Beth.
Thank you so much. Somebody's just coming in the door. Wow. Well, Adam, I don't know what to say other than the fact that, I've known you for a while, not when you were a pisher in front of the mirror doors, performing your first creative theater performance. But, it's very, very clear that your mom and dad fueled your passion and set you to all the, the right schools and on the education track to get you where you need to be today. And I can just tell you from our hearts at Heritage Pointe, we'll always have a seat at our table. And we hope to have you back at some point. I don't have anybody in the chat box with questions, but if you'd like to, if you have a question or two and you'd like to unmute yourself, please do. Got a couple of minutes.
Hi, Adam. This is Gwen Gluckman. And by the way, I just loved hearing about your work and your early experience. It's really wonderful. I was just wondering, what about live broadcasts of your plays and bring it to us? Honestly, there's a lot of interest, I think, and you might be surprised what people are willing to pay as well for a live broadcast.
Yeah, thank you, and hi, Gwen. That's a great question. We actually are working on that right now. The thing that's actually been difficult about it is that it's if you want to do it really well, like the Met Opera does live broadcasts and the National Theatre in London does live broadcasts. It costs an incredible amount of money. It's to get like a 3-camera setup or a 4-camera setup, and to be able to get everything down just right to be able to broadcast something live like that. It's probably a couple $100,000 at least to put one of those together. And being a nonprofit, while I love being a nonprofit, the bummer of it is that we're a little cash poor. So there's that.
Yeah, so the iPhones won't do it. You can't just use the 3 iPhones.
No, I wish. But that said, we have been working with I can't say too much about it because someone will come in and will break in and abduct me, and we'll be breaking some kind of contract if I say too much about it right now. But we were contacted by a cable network about filming some plays in our space on our stage, and then which would actually be broadcast. They wouldn't be live broadcast. It wouldn't be you wouldn't be watching it live, but we'd be able to record it, edit it, and make a really high quality film of a play, and then it would be on this cable channel's rotation. So that's something that we're looking forward to doing. And I actually think that we're hoping that we will be able to do that and make that a regular feature of Playwrights Horizons, which is another good thing. I mean, that conversation only began because of this pandemic closure. I mean, there was this TV company had a content gap, and they were looking to find a way to fill the content. And so it's turned into a really nice, mutually beneficial relationship between us.
That's great. We've got time for one more question. Patty
Hi,
Seaburn.
Adam. Thank you, Beth. My name is Patty Seaburn. Thank you so much for being here. I lived in New York for about a decade and loved Playwrights Horizons. So thank you so much. I have a different question than the one I put in the chat. So when I moved out here in 1992 for graduate school, I started going to South Coast Rep. And so I've been going ever since. And those many years I got married and had kids and took them to South Coast Rep. But I always feel this tension in South Coast Rep between in their repertoire, and it's always a little bit stressful the course of the 5 or the 6 plays that they put on per year, where I sort of wonder how they make their decisions and how they're trying to sort of balance out things. Sometimes I think they're doing, sort of the crowd pleaser, and other times I feel like they're kind of trying to pound something home with us. I mean, can you do that at all? I'd love to talk to their artistic directors about it. How do you make that?
Sorry, what was the very last?
How do you make your decisions?
I mean, for me personally, like I'm a big fan of what I like when I'm seeing a play is to be surprised. I like to be when I'm directing a play, one of the things that I always want to do is try to make sure the play is always that one half step in front of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Me, when I'm watching a play, if I'm able to get ahead of the play, I get annoyed and I get bored and I begin to wander a little bit. And so I'm always looking for plays that are filled with surprises. So I mean, that's certainly true of Playwrights Horizons, where a lot of the work that we do, I guess that's just we're like writers who are doing something that's really original and fresh. To me, that's kind of what I gravitate towards. And I don't know how to better describe it except to say that, like, when I'm reading a play, like a new play that's been submitted to the theater, I'm always looking for that moment where I say, like, I don't really know where this is taking me. I don't know what this is. Like, I've never actually read anything that's quite like this before. Or doesn't quite move the same, it doesn't quite work the same way. And I think that's different from what other theater, there's so that, and that's just my taste. And I'm looking for something that's going to challenge me, whether it's not just in terms of the way it's like structured. So like, it's not just about saying like, well, this play is moving backwards in time, and that's a surprising way for a play to move in time. It's more like a character is doing something that is surprising to me, or the play. There's a play that I keep thinking of that where that was about a nun who you expect that this nun at the end of this play is going to forgive this person who does this horrible thing to her, because that's what you expect. We know that story, that the nun, forgiveness is the greatest thing. But at the end of this one play that we produced, the nun chooses to not forgive this person. And to me, I remember that being like such a shock to me. And so I just think, like, whether there's a lot of different ways in which a play can surprise me, but I think that surprise element is really, really key. And I haven't actually seen a play at South Coast Rep in a little while, so I can't speak to the specific plays they're programming. But I do. My guess is that they're probably trying to strike a balance and say, I want to give audiences something that's familiar and comfortable, but then I also want to challenge audiences in smaller doses. And that would never be my instinct, but I certainly know that, like, that theaters do face pressures, and and I think that there's no right or wrong way to do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Adam and Rob, we're going to have to finish up because I know there's another presentation at Temple Bat Yam that's starting at 4 o'clock, and we want to get you all off so that you can go on. Before we finish up here, and then I'm going to throw it to Shelley in a minute, I just want to thank our residents who are in their apartments who have joined us today. I know this is thrilling for them to be on these Zoom performances, as well as our constituents. I'm happy that Patty Seaburn was on today. I want to ask you all to please schedule January 24th at the same time, 3 p.m. Pacific Coast and 6 p.m. East time. Patty will be our next guest speaker. Patty is a professor at Cal State Long Beach, and beautiful, beautiful poetry, and she's a journalist, and oh my gosh, she's also another past president of Temple Bat Yam. So I know you're going to look forward to seeing it, and it looks like her topic will be being a Jewish poet, modern and ancient influences on love, loss, and nash. So we look forward to that event too. So I'm going to finish up here by just a question that we have gotten in the last couple of months as we started to plan our HPLive programs, and everybody said to us, why? Why are you doing this? Well, over the last 9 months, the coronavirus pandemic has changed all our lives in dramatic ways. And as we prepare for this Thanksgiving holiday, many of us will not gather together at the dinner table in large numbers. Celebrating life cycle events, attending services, concerts, plays, and lectures in person has ceased, leaving us with a thirst and longing to attend events we normally take for granted. Organizations such as Heritage Pointe and Playwrights Horizons are reinventing themselves to keep in touch with constituents and to honor their missions. For Heritage Pointe, it's a slightly different story. Providing programming for our seniors is sustainable. It promotes goodwill, conversations, a warmth of community that our seniors can share in common. Heritage Pointe is pleased to offer a myriad of collaborative, artistic, and educational lectures over the coming months from gifted professionals in the nonprofit sector like Adam from Playwrights Horizons, who too are anxious to keep their creative juices flowing by your attendance. So please donate. Shelley will give you that information in just a few minutes to help us support our necessary programming for our seniors at Heritage Pointe and Adam's constituents at Playwrights Horizons. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to throw it over to Shelley, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank
Shelley?
you, Beth. So we count on you, our donors, to keep our doors open. And just as the artists like Playwrights Horizons want to keep their businesses sustainable as we all go through this pandemic together. So please take a moment to go support Playwrights Horizons. You can join them at www.phnyc.org, or you can just text BRB to 44321. And please support Heritage Pointe by texting HP Give Now to 345345 on your smartphone. Thank you again, and everyone, please stay safe.
Stay safe. Have a good night. Thank you. Bye, Adam. Bye, Rob.